And shortly awaiting the YouTubers. Good evening, hello, and welcome to Live Irish Myths. I'm Anthony Murphy of Mythical Ireland. This is episode 110. Delighted to share with you tonight a bonus episode. We normally only do once a week. Having gone, wasn't it 102 episodes or something like that, back to back, every day during the lockdown. And here we are, once weekly, but now is, as it happens, twice weekly. And the reason for that, of course, is because it is Lughnasa, the Harvest Festival, that I wanted to do at least 2 episodes about Lughnasa. There is so much material. And of course, my ear of wheat from the Boyne Valley here, which is my nice symbol of the harvest. Anyway, good evening on YouTube to, wow, packed house, Archaeoastronomy Database first in the house tonight. Now we're halfway towards the shortest day as the sun has turned back again. Yes, and you can notice it now because the days are getting noticeably shorter. The sun still doesn't go down till something like 9 o'clock versus about 10 to 10 in the evening on midsummer. But you can see the evenings drawing in slowly. Cross-quarter days are fascinating. Best wishes to all at this time, Lughnasa. Thank you, Archaeoastronomy Database. Daisy Peters says, Kate Mila Fulch, my dearest two of the Mythflix, one more time, I'm very glad to be here. We're always glad to have you in the house, Daisy. So enthusiastic, a wonderful supporter. Nikita MEO says, Giariv Gachdina August, Giagich, Nikita, you're very welcome along. Stephen Walker says, just starting to learn a little Irish, slow going. Ni och brain biag fulla ort. Well, Stephen, stick with it. You'll be doing better than me. I went back to it recently and I just found I hadn't got the time, so I need to go back to it again. But well done. Keep up the studies. Mandy McCurl says, hello, everyone, from a somewhat overcast Isle of Mull. The good news is, Mandy, it was overcast here all day. The sun came out a couple of hours ago. It's on its way over to you, so fingers crossed. What a pleasure to be here with our two of the Mythflix. It's always nice to have you here, Mandy. Stephen Walker says, oh, that's Stephen again. Yes, okay, Stephen, no problem. And saying hello to others here. John Main is in San Francisco and says, Banachti on Tuagal layer. Thank you, John August Banachti Tussafane. Deborah Williams says, hello, everyone from Hillsborough, Maryland. I hope you're all well. All fine, Deborah. Thanks for joining us. Flower Child is glad to be here, and I put my best bud to rest today. This makes me happy to be here. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that, Flower Child. Jackie Stevenson says, hello, Anthony the Mythflix. I won't be able to stay today, but wanted to check in and say hello. We'll catch up later. Absolutely fine, Jackie. We'll catch you later on, no problem. Deborah Williams is saying hi, Daisy. Alison Lowe says, hi, all from slightly not lockdown Leicester. Keep safe, Alison. That's the main thing. Look after yourself. And here on Facebook, Lloyd Stillwell is the first of the commenters, says hello from unseasonably cool Missouri. Good evening to you, Lloyd. Yvette Tillema says hi, Anthony. Gia Gut Yvette. Jules' cousin says hello and welcome back, Arish. Jules, welcome. Lovely to see you. Ralph Waldron says hello to the Tua from Athleague. Great stuff. Janet Moran says, greetings, Anthony, and the mighty Tua. Yes, indeed, Janet, greetings to you also. Greetings, happy Lughnasa. Angel Barboni Smith says, hello, Anthony, and the magical Tua. Yes, thank you, Angel. You're very welcome along. Kelly Edmiston, my good friend, haven't seen you in years, but I hope you're well. And I'm keeping a track on your travels. Kelly says, my beloved Tua, good evening. Hello, Kelly. Margaret Kiernan says, good Wednesday evening. Hope all the two are in harvest form. Yes, and enjoying the harvest, hopefully. Sharon Bogan Stitch says, hello to her from Redding in California. Hello, Sharon. Rowan Grove is watching. Hello, Rowan Folcha. Amy Wallace Dolan says, Giagich August, Giagich Tussafane, Amy. Welcome along. Joseph Hagon says, hey. Hi, Joseph Folcha. Rex Fortenberry says, hello from Louisiana to Anthony and the Mighty Tua. Yes, indeed, Rex. Imagine a Wednesday night episode. The only reason we didn't have an episode last night is because I had to make an unscheduled trip. Unscheduled sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? Just between us. Don't say anything to anyone else. The top secret. I had to go to collect my new ham radio. Shh. Teresa McGuinness says, hello all, Folcha Teresa. Jackie says, hello from... What word is that? Tomnahoric Hill? Tomnahoric Hill, Inverness, Scottish Highlands. Sounds lovely, Jackie. Send us a picture. Jim Conway is in the house. Folcha Jim. Edina Sparks says, afternoon, Anthony and the two. I hope everyone is well today. All in good form, Edina. Thanks for joining us. Anne Scott Doherty says, hello again from Oregon. Lovely to have the Oregonians in the house. Yes, indeed. Welcome, Anne. Lovely name, by the way. My wife's name is Anne, but without the E. Floyd Stevers. Is it Stevers or Stevers? Floyd, apologies if I've butchered the pronunciation of your surname. Says, top of the morning, top of the evening, from Glannabonia, from the sunny Toshe Greenvar in you. It is sunny here at the moment, so lots of sunshine from us to you. Steve Martinson says, hello, Anthony and the Mythflix clan. Best of health to everyone. Thanks, Steve. Great to see you. Nick Eska Casterton. Hi, Anthony. Hope you're all good. Hello. The awesome Tua. Hello, Nick. Welcome along. Rowan Grove says, greetings. Good folk. Cloudy and warm in Colorado. 93 days on Duolingo. Brilliant stuff, Rowan. You will be able to be our Irish translator soon enough. Brilliant stuff. Burr Whelan says, good evening, everyone. Hope you're all avoiding the showers. Lol. Nice in Dublin now, as it is here in Drogheda Burr. Mary McLean is in Austin and is back, and so glad. Well, Mary, we are glad to have you in the house. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter says, hi, Anthony from Texas. Another Texan? Don't complicate it. Another Texan in the house. Nice to see you, Elaine. Emer Galvin says, hello, all glad you're back. I'm glad you're back, Emer. Welcome along. Susan Mullen Lacerna, greetings from Raleigh. Just baked a blueberry cobbler for Lughnasadh party. Very apt because, of course, some of the fruit that was picked at this time of the year were blueberries or bilberries on the hills and in the wild places of Ireland. Such a fabulous tradition. Neil Hughes says, "Nonoa as truchit an chota as Alban." Excuse me. Tomage ulvaha. Tomage fian agus te. Fian, I know that's wine. And tea is tea. I hope that makes sense, Mary Neal. Yes, indeed. Brilliant stuff. Brendan Byrne says, enjoy the tea and the wine, by the way. Brendan Byrne says, 110. Wow. TV series on the way. Wouldn't that be nice? Welcome along, Brendan. Olwyn Roy Badzak is in the house from Berkshire. Glad to be here, she says. Well, need I say it? We're glad to have you here. Yummy, says Adina. Vanilla ice cream on top. Patricia Patsy O'Malley Boyd says, hi, everyone. Fáilte, Patricia, you're welcome along. Erin O'Leary. Hi, Anthony. First time live. So excited. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Erin, first of all, that's a wonderful first name. Second of all, that's a wonderful second name. O'Leary, the offspring of the King Leire of Tara, 5th century king who ruled when St. Patrick arrived in Ireland. You're very welcome along. We're very glad to have you as part of the Mythflix, as it's called, the Mythflix clan. You're very welcome here, and I'm sure you'll be made very welcome. And the very next message is from Adina. Welcome you along. There you go. Nancy Sterling says, hello, Anthony from Bennington in Vermont. Fáilte, Nancy. Great to see you. Jacinta Paisley. Hi, all too. Glad to be with you all. Yes, we're glad to have you along, Jacinta. Good to see you again. Louise Sherrill says, hello, Giagich, Louise. Stephen Walker says, YouTube is down. Is it? But it looks all right here, and people are commenting. Anyone on YouTube, anyone other than YouTube having problems? Stephen, thank you for alerting us to that. I'm hoping it's just you. I'm sorry, but I hope it's okay. Seems to be fine here, says Archaeoastronomy Database. So we'll keep going. Aaron O'Leary says, thank you. Well, you're very welcome, Aaron. Pull up a chair, grab yourself a dram or a brew, in case a dram is not your thing. Maura Deval says, Talchu Abu Lu2 Giagich Maura. And yes, we'll talk more about Lu today and Talchu, of course. You will visit us in Copenhagen when I get there. We will make it happen, says Kelly. That would be nice, because that's somewhere I have never been. Karam Gogas says, hello, is this reality or just a fantasy? Hi, Karam. Good to see you. Mariana Dunn says, so happy to join today from Virginia. Blessings, dear Anthony and Tua. Welcome along, Mariana. It's great to have you in the house. Tom King says, good evening, Anthony, and all the mighty Tua. Lost shepherd to lost sheep, come in, please. Enjoy the radio, Anthony. Roger that. Good stuff, Tom. Margaret Kiernan says, hi, Patsy. And Tom, I just should say, probably not publicly, but hey, you're here now anyway. I'm going to take you up on that. I'm going to visit you. I want to see you in action. That's going to be really interesting. Kirsten Salisbury is in the house. Hi, everyone. And if you haven't met Kirsten, Kirsten is a very, very talented artist who has produced some really, really beautiful artwork around the ancient site. Sandra Patterson says, evening to and Anthony from rainy Fife in Scotland. Hope you're all great. All good, Sandra. Sorry about the rain. We did get a clearance. Hopefully it'll cross the sea and hit your area or land on you sometime soon. Before sunset would be a good idea. Kimberly Fields Sipola says, hello, Anthony and Tua. Hope your trip went well yesterday. Yes, it did. It did actually. It went very well. Although it was raining in Northern Ireland, when we came back over the border into the Republic, it stopped raining. What's that about? Katie McMahon waves. Banachthi, Katie. Jane Valencia says, greetings from Vashon Island, Washington. Well, you are not the only Vashon Islander in the community, Jane, but you're very, very welcome along. Always great joy for me to see my friends from Washington State. I have quite a few friends in that part of the world. Paula Snow Queen waves. Giagich Angel Barboni Smith says hello to Tom. Doris O'Hara says hi, Everett Giagich. Paul Cameron. Hello, Anthony and all the clan. Great to plug in with you all. Best wishes from Roth To Condon to me. Paul, it's a great pleasure to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope you are safe and well. Neil McDonald says, evening all. Giagich. Neil, welcome along. Jane. Neil Hughes says, YouTube keeps freezing. So you're not the only one. Oh, have to progress with it, I'm afraid. I don't know what causes that. Yeah, there's a couple of people saying. Yeah, there's a couple of people saying there's a problem with YouTube. And I really don't know what to do about that, because if I disconnect, I have to set up a new live stream, and that takes a while. So just have to, if you're having trouble with YouTube and you have Facebook, come across to facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. Hopefully that'll sort it. Mary Ellen Sheehan says, hello from Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, Mary. Good evening to you. Barbara Kling says, hello all. Happy to be here for the second episode about Lughnasa. Good to have you here, Barbara. Patricia McAteer says, hello from Omeath. Fáilte, Patricia. Welcome along. Erica Rivertree says, Banachthi o Louisville, Kentucky. Hello, Erica. Fáilte, you're very, very welcome. Okay. L.M. Moore says, Giagich from Southern Alberta, Canada. You're very welcome along, L.M. Alan Taff says, hello, it's my first time. Another newbie. You're very welcome along, Tá Fáilte Rót, Alan. Make yourself comfortable. Pull up a nice chair. Make yourself a cup of tea or a dram. Would love a nose through your library. Nice collection, says Shane Broderick. We've actually done a couple of episodes before the new shelves were put in. We've done a couple of episodes. I must return to the library and do another episode. This time we could do a quick tour of the whole thing, you know. Natasha, is it Hygen? Says hi from Devon in the UK. Fáilte, Natasha, you're very welcome along. Hope you are safe and well. Mike and Jeanette in Princeton, New Jersey are in the house and say good afternoon. Hello. Jen Logudis says hello from St. Louis, Missouri, from Aria and Jen. Fáilte, Aria and Jen, you're very welcome along. Okay, so it seems Anne McCallum is saying I'm back on Facebook now and happy to be here. Anne, it's a great pleasure to have you on Facebook. I'm sorry about... Some people are saying it's okay. One thing that I will say is that the computer and the desk are at the very back of an extension to the house, and the router is at the very front of the house. I must get a better router with antennas on it. I am hardwired through the electricity sockets, but that doesn't always guarantee a good connection either. So anyway, we're returning this evening. Julie King says hello from a wet and windy Éanach, Oravon. You'll have to remind me where that is, but it's lovely to hear from you, Julie. Ashley Collins Couchois says hello, hi from Newcastle upon Tyne. Brilliant stuff. Hello, Ashley. Welcome along. April Michael Fried says hello from Camden in Michigan. My first time here, Michigan. Wow, brilliant stuff. Another newcomer. There are several of you in the house tonight. You're all very, very welcome to Live Irish Myths. My name's Anthony Murphy. I'm your host. You're all very welcome. Make yourselves comfortable, and hopefully you enjoy the stories. Ernie Freites or Frates says hello from Mississippi. Fáilte, good evening. Is it Ernie? Ernie, yes. Just in case I've missed anyone. The Woodsies in Monaster Boyce are here, and they're saying YouTube is grand. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry about it, folks. I really am. Deborah Williams says it's slightly delayed. Martin Smith says it's okay here. Luke Tracy says I'm watching on YouTube, no problem. Okay, so it seems to be an intermittent thing. Okay, good. So what time are we on? We're on 15 minutes. That's not too bad. So what I wanted to say was, we were talking about Lughnasadh, and I'm going to go back to talking about, the old myths behind Lughnasadh and some of the practices around Lughnasadh. What I had forgotten to talk about last night, or on Monday night, and I think it's very important to do so, is that I believe, and I've written about this in my books, and I think in some of my blog posts, and I've probably said it in several videos. Adina Sparks is in the house saying hello to Nora. Caroline Flanagan is sitting with a glass of wine, waiting. Caroline, that sounds very nice. I might have one myself, except for I have to kind of pay attention here. I've written that. I think I'm one of the people who believes that the cross-quarter festivals go all the way back into pre-Christian Ireland, into prehistoric times. Now, part of the reason for that belief is the apparent alignment of several monuments on sunrises and sunsets for the cross-quarter dates. So just to give you some examples, the alignment of the Mound of the Hostages, Dúin O'Neill at Tara, on the sunrise at Samhain and Imbolc. A good example at this time of year is the setting sun lighting up the passage and chamber, ostensibly because it's badly damaged and the roof is gone, of Cairn S at Sliabh na Cailleach, the hill of the Cailleach, or the people say the hill of the witch. It's not a very good translation of the word Cailleach. She was an ancient goddess, a deity at Lough Crew, and I have previously taken photos up there at this time of year, and it's wonderful. It's a beautiful sight. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And just like that, then Cairn U is aligned towards Samhain and Imbolc sunrises. Cairn L on Cairn Ban is aligned so that not only does it line up towards Samhain and Imbolc sunrises, but the sun comes out of a ruined cairn on Sliabh Rua, Red Mountain, interestingly enough, red from the sun for the sunrise, or Carrig Brack. Just as it penetrates, its light penetrates that passage and chamber, strikes a slender stone pillar and illuminates the megalithic art on the largest of the stone, and it's the largest of the stones, and in the largest of the recesses of that chamber. That's Cairn L. Now, Cairn L is inaccessible. The gate is permanently locked now, as is Cairn T, the equinox cairn on Sliabh na Cailleach. But before it was locked up, Martin Byrne, who's a tour guide in Sligo, who is very prominent on the internet and is a wonderful, wonderful expert on the monuments of not just Sligo, but of Lough Crew and the Boyne Valley as well. Had a wonderful photo that he allowed me to reproduce in my Mythical Ireland book, which was published in 2017, showing this panel of art being lit up, and it's really quite spectacular. So there's reason to believe that they may have celebrated these times of the year. Notwithstanding that, and remember the times of the year that we're talking about are halfway in days between the equinoxes and the solstices. So in this case, we are halfway now, roughly speaking, in tomorrow and the next day, we'll be halfway in days between summer solstice and autumnal equinox. And then halfway between autumnal equinox and winter solstice, of course, is Samhain in the beginning of November. Kelly Jensen is in Boulder, in Colorado, and says, hello, Giagwich. Kelly. Now, at what point Lughnasadh was initiated as a celebration of the harvest, we cannot tell. What we can tell with reasonable certainty is that end of July, beginning of August, feasts, festivals, rituals around gathering fruit and gathering the products of the harvest have been going on in Ireland for at least 1,000 years. The annual pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick, which is ostensibly a Christian event, I think, and I wonder and I ponder about its pre-Christian, pagan, if you will. I don't like using that word. Origins. You know that before St. Patrick apparently fasted there for 40 days and 40 nights, that there may already have been a pilgrimage to that place and many others. And we know, of course, from the work of Moira MacNeill and the wonderful Kevin Danaher, the exceptionally wonderful Moira MacNeill, the Festival of Lughnasa, who dedicated a large chunk of her life researching the subject of Lughnasa and produced that wonderful tome. And I know some of you were saying on Monday's episode that copies of this are several €100. I would say don't pay that, because I'd say you'll still get a copy for certainly for under €100. I think I paid about 45 or 50 euros for this when I bought it. Sandra Boothroyd says, "Good evening, sir." Yes, indeed. Good evening, Sandra. Amy Wallace Dolan says, "I've been searching for that Moira MacNeill Lughnasa book in some eclectic independent bookshops today to no avail." Yeah, the only thing is that, these things are very valuable. I always say that when you come across a work like this in a second-hand bookshop, Irene Thomas is in Alameda in California. Fulcha, Irene, welcome along. As for instance, I was told about a copy of Island of the Setting Sun, first edition, that was picked up in a second-hand bookshop for €5. And copies were being sold on Amazon for €500. Rex wants to know, has anyone else climbed Croagh Patrick? It's absolutely soul-stirring. I actually haven't been to the top. I'm determined to do it. Missed my chance this year because of COVID-19, unfortunately. They basically weren't letting anybody onto the mountain. Catherine Woodruff says, "Hello all." Fulcha. But, this idea of pilgrimage to high places. You see, the thing about it is that if it wasn't written down in the Middle Ages by the monks in the monasteries, in other words, any sort of mythology, then the chances are that by the time you get to sort of late medieval times, let's say the 18th and especially the 19th century, when there's a huge amount of change in Ireland, mainly because of the famine and its after effects. And people still spoke Irish up until that time, and people still very, very strongly passed on all of the traditions and the customs of the calendar and everything else at that time. And unfortunately, that waned from there until the early 20th century, when in the 1930s, the Irish Folklore Commission was set up to try and rescue as much of that folklore and that tradition and the songs and the customs and the costumes and all of the things that people did to save them from oblivion. But the point here is that if it wasn't written down in the Middle Ages, it's very difficult for us to say, apart from those hints in the mythology, it's very difficult for us to say, yes, we know this was happening on X date before Christianity. Once you go before Christianity in Ireland, history gets all muddled, and you are actually largely reliant on the old stories for a glimpse into the past. The difficulty is because they were propagated orally in so many cases and written down by the monks in some cases, or the scribes, the ecclesiastical scribes. You never get a definitive answer, except for in the annals, which are very specific about dates. Anyway, the Festival of Lughnasa is thought to go back into the mists of antiquity. Now, I have speculated in my own work, specifically and most significantly, or most, one might say extravagantly, because I have engaged in speculation. I've speculated that there was a great harvest festival at Brunabonia, which involved great gatherings at the henges, including Drone Henge. Natasha wants to know, who are the publishers? It was originally published by Oxford University Press in 1962. But after that, it was published by Corla Veologus Éireann, which is the Irish folklore Council and printed by Dundalgan Press in Dundalk. So I'll just show you Chorla Velogus Éireann. And you'll see there 1962 Oxford Press, and then the later reprints 1982 and 2008. Of course, obviously this is a 2008 reprint, but I highly recommend it. And of course, you know, this is a work that does not just deal with Lughnasa. Yes, it deals largely with Lughnasa, but there's so much in there to be learned. I mean, I reckon that I could read the Festival of Lughnasa from cover to cover 5 times, and every time I read it, I would learn something different. There's the cover. Somebody wants to see the cover. Obviously, that's a dust. I know it's backwards. I'm sorry, Kelly Ní Kelly. I can't do anything about it because I don't have an iPhone. Only iPhone can mirror the selfie cam, apparently. Anyway, I'll do a little bit more reading. I wanted to talk tonight about you know, the mythological origins, and so we read that you know, Lugh and Lughnasadh go back into the mists of time, but Lugh, who instituted who founded the Irish Olympic Games at Tailteann or Tailteann. You know, they we did an episode on it, and I don't want to go down rabbit holes. But the Éanach Tailteann, which is basically the Irish Olympic Games, according to tradition, were founded centuries before the Olympic Games in Greece, which is very interesting in itself. Ronald Hicks, who we've mentioned in lots of episodes, professor of anthropology at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, has said repeatedly that he believes that a lot of these gathering places, the Éanachs, you know, that the traditions around those go right back into the mists of time, right back into antiquity. So we read that, you know, if you want to learn more about Lugh, you would be reading 3 main stories, which are Cát Moitura, which is the second battle of Moitura, Imeachta Chlanne Tyrrell, or the later version known as Ia Chlanne Turin, the tragic tale of the sons of Turin, and Baile an Scoil, which is the Phantom's Frenzy. I'm going to do an episode about that, but I need to refresh my memory about it and read it again. References to him or briefer episodes concerning him occur in Táin Bó Cúailnge, where he is, of course, the supernatural father of Cuchulainn, the great warrior. Compert Con Cullen, that is the birth of Cuchulainn. Tuchmark Emera, the wooing of Emer, who was Cuchulainn's girlfriend. In Dinshenachas legends, Laura Gawala, the Book of Invasions. Achalot na Shonorach, which is the colloquy of the ancients. Keating's history, that's Geoffrey Keating's History of Ireland, and the Annals of the Four Masters. So basically, you see all those books behind me. If you want to learn about Lugh, you have to go through all of those. The Battle of Moitura is a story of a battle of gods. The opposing forces were the Tuatha De Danann and the Favora, or the Fomorians. And as the Favora are usually represented as evil in Irish mythology, the battle has been interpreted as a struggle between beneficent and harmful powers. Darbois de Jubainville, we met him, didn't we, in our episode when we were discussing Revue Celtique and the Reine d'Inchenachus. De Jubainville interpreted the battle as one fought by the gods of day and life against the gods of night and death. One thinks of the Olympians and the Titans, you know. Rowan Grove says, I expect that quite a few early societies, of which we have no historical record, had gatherings for celebrations and contests. It's a human thing to do. Absolutely. We haven't changed that much in 5,000 years. That would be my opinion. Tressa Danley Conderia, is it Conderia or Conderla? Conderla says, woohoo, glad I could make it in time to hear this. Very nice to have you along, Tressa. You're very welcome. And subsequent commentators have made somewhat similar deductions. O'Rahilly, however, interprets the story as a highly artificial construction built up from the myth of the slaying of Balor, the sun god, by Lugh. And I think O'Rahilly is T.F. O'Rahilly, and that would be early Irish history and mythology. Sure, look, it's an excuse to show off one of the books, isn't it? Yeah, so I think that's who MacNeil is referring to, is Thomas O'Rahilly, early Irish history and mythology. Anyway, let's not get too distracted, because I know what will happen. Suddenly it'll be an hour gone and I'll be looking at the clock and I'll be wondering where the time has gone to, and I'll need another episode to talk about Lughnasa. The folk legends of the festival certainly support the theory of a struggle between two gods, but this is to anticipate. For the present, it may be said that the tale has so many mythological motifs that it cannot be dismissed as artificial. However composed, it is a repository of myth. Briefly, its plot is as follows. Nuadu, the king of the gods, has been deposed because he has lost an arm, and Bress is made king in his stead, but after a while Bress's rule becomes oppressive. He fails to provide feasts and is banished, and Nuadu is reinstated. Lugh, a brilliant young stranger and master of many crafts, comes to Nuadu's court, wins a chess game, and makes a crow logo, which means a ford or enclosure of Lugh, which is basically a chess move in the Irish game Fichiol, which is like a chessboard. Then occurs a curious incident. Nuadu yields his place to Lugh, who sits in the king's seat for 13 days. Nuadu's people now have a champion. Bress summons his kinfolk, the Favore, to help him, and the forces line up for battle at the time of Samhain. The Tuatha Dé Danann muster magical helpers. The champion of the other side is Balor, Lugh's maternal grandfather by coincidence, who has a deadly piercing eye and who kills Nuadu in the course of the battle. Lugh kills Balor by throwing a sling stone at the deadly eye, which is thereby thrust to the back of the head and thus destroys Balor's own followers. Kelly Edmiston says, another few Lughnasa episodes. I vote yes. The Tuatha Dé Danann are now victors and capture Bress, whose life Lugh spares on condition that he grants farming boons. He offers first a constant supply of milk, then harvest in every quarter, both of which are rejected. His third boon, advice on ploughing, sowing, and reaping, is accepted. The second offer, harvest in every quarter, is refused in a verse, which roughly translates is, this has suited us, spring for ploughing and sowing, summer for strengthening the corn, autumn for the ripeness of corn and reaping, winter for consuming it. The story clearly contains a harvest myth in which the secret of agricultural prosperity is wrested from a powerful and reluctant god by Lugh. The theme of the liberation from oppression has been superimposed. Nuadu, it may be observed, is killed in the battle, and though he willingly yielded the royal seat to Lugh, the incident points to a dramatic opposition and leads to surmise that he, Balor, and Bress are three aspects of Lugh's opponent. Lugh displaces Nuadu, kills Balor, and forces Bress to yield his knowledge. What's interesting here too is the fact that after the Milesians took Ireland from the Tuatha Dé Danann in Lower Gowalla, one of the curious things that happened was that, despite the fact that there was an agreement and the Tuatha Dé Danann retreated into the Shee, or underground, whatever you want to call it, that after that happened, the Tuatha Dé Danann were still able to negatively affect the growth of the crops and the produce of agriculture. And the Milesians had to make a further intercession, as it were, a pleading with the Tuatha Dé Danann in order for the crops to grow. Now, it's interesting here too that Dagda, who was a chief of the Dé Dananns at one point, and a deity closely associated with Newgrange and the great monuments of the Boyne Valley. Desiree Riley says, I'm a little late, hope all are well. All great, Desiree, great. Pardon me, very nice to have you along. Dagda, closely associated with the great monuments of the Boyne, was the one who I've repeatedly said ad nauseum, such that you're probably getting sick and tired of me saying it, was the one who controlled the crops and the harvest. A very, very powerful deity indeed. Other narratives preserve a tradition that Lugh killed Bress at Carn-y-Naich, Mizenhead in County Cork. The death was brought about by a trick played by Lugh. Bress was accustomed to drink the milk of hundreds of cows brought to him as tribute. Lugh had wooden cows made, and inside them were put pails of red liquid, which Bress drank and which killed him. Think of the Trojan wooden horse, and you're kind of getting there. Megan Walters is here also. Hello, Megan. Fáilte. Incidentally, Bress is here described as the flower of the Tuatha Dé Danann and the father of assemblies. The story of the sons of Tuireann should precede the Battle of Moytura. Three brothers, Brian, Iuchar, and Iucharbha, kill the father of Lugh, that's Cian, and are condemned to bring him in compensation, that is Lugh, magical gifts which are to help him in the battle. Their adventures are perilous and finally bring about their deaths, a retribution desired by Lugh. The introduction to one version of the tale brings Lugh to battle against Bress, to whom he grants quarter. Balor also figures in the background. This tale contains phrases describing the brilliance of Lugh's face, likening it to the sun. The theory that Lugh was a solar deity is based on them. In Baile an Scoil, the Phantom Frenzy, Lugh is a majestic king of the otherworld who is visited by Cunn, the king of Tara, that's Cunn Céad Cathach, Cunn of the 100 Battles, and who recites to Cunn a prophecy of the kings who succeed him at Tara. Lugh is attended by a beautiful woman who presides over a bowl of red wine. She is the sovereignty of Ireland, and she gives a drink of her bowl to Cunn. The story is obviously an allegory and a device to frame the prophecy. Lugh tells Cunn that his descendants will hold Éanach Tailteann as long as kingship lasts at Tara. According to a 12th century poem, Lugh was reared in Owen Aulach, the fairy realm called Avalon in Arthurian literature, and terrestrially located at the Isle of Man. An incident in the Táin and in Compert Con Cullen reveals that Lugh was the divine father of Cuchulainn. This is also mentioned in Tuchmarc Emire, the wooing of Emer, as is the statement that a Banish Ree, a royal wedding feast, was held for Lugh at Tailne, which is a variant of Tailtiu, where the Tuatha Dé Danann installed him as king after the death of Nuadu. That is very interesting because, of course, the Banish Ree, also known as the what is it in Hieros Gamos? In the Irish sense, was the marriage, the ritual marriage of the king to the sacred landscape. The sacred landscape represented by a sovereignty deity who was exclusively female. Dinshenach's verse names 4 women as his wives: Echtach, Englich, Nás, and Bui. Very interesting because 2 of those are the goddesses of Nouth. Englich is said to have been the daughter of Elkmar, who was stolen away by Midger when Angus was playing with the boys. Remember, we mentioned this in the episode about Éanach Éangusa very recently, only 2 or 3 episodes ago. And Bui, of course, said to have been the goddess over whom Nouth was built. Cnoc Bui, the hill of Bui, where the goddess Bui was buried. So that's really interesting. There are 4 wives of Lugh. 2 of them are goddesses of Nouth. Very interesting. And of course, Nás, who's one of the others, is a sister of Bui, and she gives her name to Naas in County Kildare. Barbara Murphy's in the house. Hello, Barbara. Welcome along. Embodied in another Dinshenach's verse is the tradition that he drove from Tara a group of enemies described as needy and dark. An incidental reference to Lugh says that he was the inventor of ficial, often translated chess, ball play, and horsemanship. Very interesting. A gloss on his epithet, Les Shuamach, states that a red colour used to be on him from sunset to morning. Da Jerak Novij Fer o Huine Grenia Comatan. It must be admitted that this suggests the sun at dawn and evening. Fascinating stuff. And again, I'm only on page 6 of this wonderful, wonderful book. You can just imagine how many rich treasures are contained within its cover. The description Scoil has a special connection with Lugh. He himself is the Scoil in Balor on Scoil, where he is both a kingly figure of the other world and a prophet. Yes, Coda. Yeah, fine. Okay, yes. Lugh didn't have it. Well, I'm not sure that Lugh did have any dogs. I can't say he did or he didn't. Yeah, we'll do an episode on dogs in Irish mythology. Okay, yes, but just not tonight. Okay. Sorry about the interruption. He himself is the Scoil, where he is both a kingly figure of the other world and a prophet. In Dinshanachas legends, he's the son of the Scoil Bulb, the dumb skull ? The word has difficulty to translators. It has been translated as phantom, champion, giant, man, or spirit, while the word Banscoil has been translated as woman poet. Mrs. Chadwick suggests that it applies particularly to disembodied spirits of the dead or supernatural beings. The Scoil par excellence was the god Lugh, she says. Whatever may be its exact significance in connection with Lugh, the word turns up as a personal name in local legends at 3 widely separated sites of Lughnasadh celebration, in one of the instances as a woman's name. A Dinshanachas legend tells of Lugh's death at Ishnach at the hands of Macol, Macecht, and Magraigne, 3 divine brothers, who were, by the way, the last of the Tuatha Dé Danann kings before the Milesians took over, who were themselves killed at Tulju. He had killed their father through jealousy about his wife. When they attacked, he escaped into the nearby lake, Lughvorta, but was drowned in it, Lugh's Lake, and then buried in a cairn on the shore of the lake. Shanachas na Relic, however, says that Lugh was buried at Brú na Bóinne, specifically where in Petrie's Round Towers of Ireland. I must dig that out and have a look at it. Then Shanachas legends also bring him into relationship with Gull. He is killed by Gull, according to one legend. In another, he kills Gull in the rout after the Battle of Moitura. Lugh appears as an early ancestor in the genealogies of ruling Irish families. This is a reflection, no doubt, of an ancient tradition of divine descent and of special claim on his protection. So there you go. An enigmatic connection between Lugh and the little fairy shoemaker of Irish popular tradition has been deduced mainly from the meaning of the suggested original form of the name, Lugh Chorpáin, little Lugh body, which of course is anglicised to leprechaun. It receives support from the well-known inscription to the Lugoves set up by the Guild of Cobblers at Osma in Spain, from which it may be inferred that Lugh, pluralised, was the patron of the shoemaking craft. Lugh gifts, I don't know how to pronounce that because it's Welsh and I'm terrible at Welsh pronunciation. It's almost as bad as my Irish. The Welsh mythological hero has been identified with Lugh. The important episode in which he gets his name tells of his disguise as a shoemaker and his skill in the craft. Now, if you wanted more about Lugh, there's one. Sorry, I just have to find it because things have been rearranged here lately, so I may just have a momentary difficulty. Oh, I know where it is. A very nice book that was produced by Sean Fitzgerald, Cathal O'Sharkey, and Sean O'Goheen in 2017 is called Lugh na Bua, and it contains a story of Lugh in the Irish and in the English translation, and beautifully illustrated. So there's a sort of a Donegal variant of the I'm not sure where this can be purchased. Sean Fitzgerald, if you happen to be watching, because I know you've been a regular watcher, you might tell people where they can get this because it's beautiful. It really is a wonderful piece of work. Published in Oxford by the Onslaught Press. There's a Donegal variant of the Battle of Moytura, in which Lugh slays Balor, and Balor's evil eye, he's a cyclops, he's only got one eye, oozes out this poison which flows into Dunluey, which is the poison glen in Donegal. And that is apparently how it gets its name. It's a slightly different variation of the Cop Moytura myth in a different geographical setting, further to the northwest of Ireland, which is fascinating. Anyway, that's another source on Lugh if you wanted to pursue that. In terms of, I want to go back to Danaher. I'm getting there. I'm quickly getting used to where everything is. There was something that Danaher said, and I couldn't find it again last night when we were reading. I couldn't actually find it again. And it's something that's worth bearing in mind. And that is that actually we consider summer to be a time of, growth. And Yvette Tillema is telling me that Amazon carries Sean's book, Lughnasadh. So go over to Amazon if that's where you want to buy it. And somebody points out, I think it was Megan Walters, says, organize stuff and you lose things. It's so true. I knew where everything was when the place was in disarray. Now I have to get used to it again. And that was that, we have, or we try to maintain this concept called food security, which is a big thing in modern times with such a huge population, not just in Europe, in the developed world, and making sure everybody gets fed. And of course, not everybody gets fed, which is a great, great tragedy and a silly situation because there is more than enough food to go around. But in former times, before imports and exports and regular shippings and before transport networks and infrastructure were a thing, especially before the time of the famine, most families grew their own food on small properties. Martin Doheney's in the house. Hello, Martin. On their own plot. And they tried to grow enough potatoes and vegetables to see them through the year. They might have had a cow or two to provide milk. They might have had a goat to provide milk. They might have kept a couple of sheep, a couple of lamb chops on a Sunday, if that's your thing. But in all seriousness, the harvest at this time of year, so beginning late July and running through into August, the produce of that harvest had to last until the next harvest. And this is a thing we forget. We have refrigerators and we've all sorts of food storage. Grain and large amounts of food are kept stored in warehouses, etc., etc. In former times, this was the time of year when you were harvesting the crops at Lughnasa, and you were hoping that, well, first of all, that the crop was an abundant one, but second of all, of course, that you were going to be able to store it up until next year. Now, there's a reference to a 6-week hunger, and that 6-week hunger would basically last from the time of midsummer until the beginning of the harvest at Lughnasa. And that is the hunger brought about by the fact that it was difficult. It was a difficult, fraught exercise. It took great skill, great husbandry to be able to make your food last from one harvest to the other. Not everyone was able to do it. Consequently, at the time of the longest days of the year, when you would imagine that things would be, well, they are, of course, fruitful, but the thing is, most of the crops are still in the ground and not yet ripe for the harvest. I'm not sure. Coda's barking. Is that an indication that he's hungry because I'm talking about food? I don't know. He was fed, by the way, about 20 minutes before we started the episode. His second feed of the day. That this 6 weeks hunger, and the story of Irish history is unfortunately full of the stories of hunger. Notwithstanding, of course, the Great Famine, or as some people call it, some people refer to it as genocide. You know, that 6 weeks must have been a very, very difficult period for people. Now, no wonder then that Freachon or Frachan or Freakin, it's got a dozen different pronunciations. Sunday was a thing in Ireland, going up onto the heights and basically picking the wild berries. Now, I want to tell you about something that happened just a couple of days ago over the long Lughnasa weekend. Of course, the August Monday, the first Monday of August, is a bank holiday in Ireland. So we had a bank holiday weekend. We had a 3-day weekend. Over the course of the weekend, myself and my youngest son went on 2 separate excursions through the Boyne Valley, visiting ancient sites. On Monday, on the bank holiday, we happened to go through Tara, but we didn't stop because it was absolutely crowded. But on the way down the narrow country road between Tara and Rathmave, we saw a man with a bag, an older man in a suit with a bag. And he was quite, what's the word, furtive, you know. He was clandestinely picking the blackberries from the thorn bushes. And we have, of course, a proliferation of blackberry bushes in Ireland. They're to be found in almost every ditch along every road. It is a thing, and it still is a thing. Occasionally, my family has done it. I know plenty of other families that have done it. At this time of year, they go and pick the wild berries, put them in a bucket or a bag, bring them home and make something with them. Some people make jams or preserves. Other people say, well, let's make a blueberry cake or let's make a blackberry tart or whatever it happens to be. Some people just eat them, you know, keep them, wash them, and then just eat them before they go off. And so this is basically the continuation of a very, very ancient tradition. How far back it goes, of course, we cannot say. All we can say is that we know that people did it in former times. We know that some people still do it, as we are witness to it. Do you know, to be honest with you, I looked at this man and I was like, yeah, he's a gentleman from the old world. You know, Olwen Roy Badziak says, I pick damsons for jam and sloes for gin. Sounds really lovely. I wouldn't mind trying some of that gin. Paula Snow Queen says, scones. What a wonderful idea. Nice with a cup of tea. You're all making me hungry, says Desiree. Paula Snow Queen says, I don't even wash them. Well, there you go, you know. Kathy Maydeo says, same here with blackberries here in Washington State. Just picked some at work today. Lovely stuff. Excellent stuff. So I'm just going to finish out with Kevin Danaher, because we nearly finished Kevin Danaher's writings, or did we? Do you know what? There's very little left. I'm just trying to think offhand. Because I just didn't do enough preparation for tonight because I had a very, very busy day at work. Oh, there's another book that is similar to this that talks about the year and the customs of the year. Was that Miles Dillon, was it? I can't immediately think of it. By the way, Coda is barking because other dogs in the locality are barking, and that's the only reason that he's barking. He has an automatic answer. Even when he's asleep, if they start barking, he starts barking in his sleep. Something that I forgot to say was that I live in County Louth in Ireland, which is on the east coast of Ireland. It's the smallest county in Ireland, and it is named after Lugh. It is Conde na Lugh. Lugh's plain, Lova or Lumai. And MacNeil actually does briefly mention this about place names named after Lugh. Actually, I'll read a little bit back here because this touches on the stuff I was talking about in relation to Sean's book, Lugh na Bua, and the northwestern variant of the Cotmai Chura story. The story is as follows. Balor, who lives on Tory Island, has a baleful, a petrifying or burning eye. He is fated to be killed by his grandson, so he keeps his daughter Ethna in a tower. On the mainland lives a smith who owns a marvellous cow which Balor covets. A champion herds the cow while the smith makes arms for him. And Balor, disguised as a red-haired boy, tricks the champion into abandoning the cow, which Balor then carries off to his island. The champion has a magic helper, a woman in some versions, a man in others, who brings him magically to the tower where he mates with Ethna. Her 12 women attendants are also mated with either by the helper or, in some versions, by the champion himself. He brings back the cow to the smith. When Ethna gives birth, some version says that she bore 3 sons, other that 12 babies were born simultaneously to her women attendants. Balor takes the children in a cloth and drops them in the sea. One, who is Ethna's son Lugh, is saved by the magic helper and brought to the smith to rear. What other story did we have recently where a smith or a shepherd fostered a child who had been abandoned? Oh yeah, that was the one about inbreeding, wasn't it? It was the one about Yucky Aram. It was Yucky Aram at Tara and Ethane. That he hadn't actually slept with Ethane, he had slept with his own daughter. The other children are the ancestors of the Seals, Seals. Balor later meets the champion and kills him. Lugh, grown up, helps the smith. Balor at the forge one day boasts of the killing. I'm thinking of Tom King as I'm reading this. Whereupon Lugh thrusts a glowing rod from the fire into Balor's eye and so kills him. Please don't do that when I visit Tom. Some versions say that dying Balor asks Lugh to behead him and to put the head on top of his own so that he may get Balor's power. Lugh, suspecting peril, puts the head on a rock which is split by its venom. This tale, it has been remarked, supplies a motive ordered in Tory Island by a member of the Ordnance Survey team. Curiously, Lugh is described in it as wicked. When you're finished, thank you. Yeah. Okay. There is a tradition in the island that Balor, the builder of the old castle, had a wicked grandson who used to throw the pointed rocks into this bay in order that they might blind Balor when he went to bathe. By the way, for a post about this and the various places associated with Lugh, see the Monumental Ireland Facebook page in the past few days. Balor had but one eye, and the youth was desirous to deprive him of it. Another tradition says Balor caused the rocks to be thrown in with a view of preventing anyone carrying off his daughter. Donegal tradition recorded by O'Donovan, that is John O'Donovan of the Ordnance Survey in the first part of the 19th century, named Lugh as Lui Lawfada Ein Vach Ingan Valor, Lugh, the long-armed only son of Balor's daughter. The barrenness of the slopes of Muckish and Errigal, which are mountains in County Donegal, was accounted for through their being exposed to the withering eye of Balor. At Cong in County Mayo, the place where he stood when he uncovered his eye was known to the people, and they pointed out stones which they said had been men until petrified by him. Another Mayo tradition describes graphically the increasing damage done as, one by one, the covers of his eye were lifted. And of course, there's a similar tale about that pertaining to the Baltray standing stones and the coast where the boy enters the sea. But Lugh does not figure in that. Balor is stealing the magic cow and her calf. At Ishnok, we have seen that a lake was named from Lugh. The narrative names his grave Lecht Loa, or Lecht Lugha, and also mentions a Carn Ludach. Cnoch Ludach, according to one late manuscript, was another name for Talchi. Luva, from which the modern county of Louth gets its name, is also derived from him. The Ordnance Survey researchers found this tradition in 1836. They were told that he was killed by Gol MacMorna. Now, Gol MacMorna was the mortal enemy of Fionn McCool. So it's interesting that this character is associated in the folklore with Lugh as well. And his grave was pointed out by the country people. Dun Louis, at the foot of Errigal was named from him, or so O'Donovan was told in 1835. No doubt the hill called Slieve Loa, Logha, in East Mayo is also his. The earthwork, well known locally as Rath Lugh, is situated within 2 miles of Tara. And of course, Rath Lugh was famously the place that became the battleground between the protesters against the M3 motorway and the firms who were digging said motorway. And all sorts of warnings were issued not to route the motorway through the Tara Screen Valley in the Gowra Valley, but they were ignored. And a lot of graves were disturbed, the resting place of many people. And of course, that was the place where the Fianna had their last great battle. And probably within 6 or 8 weeks of the official opening of the M3 motorway, the economy collapsed. And all sorts of brown-coloured excrement hit the fan. So that's what happens. Don't mess with them. That's all I can say. And it's after getting cloudy here. But the sun looks, by the look of the colour in the clouds, the sun is only just going to go down. Of course, don't forget that it has also been speculated that the symbol of the ear of wheat is represented in a carving on a stone in the chamber of Newgrange, which is interesting. That perhaps some of the celebrations that happened in there at the solstice were related to hoping that the birth of the new sun, SUN/SON, would bring with it agricultural prosperity and fruitfulness and a good harvest for the next year. But this is, of course, entirely in the realm of speculation. Lughnasa remains to be probably the festival. I just want to make sure I get my wording right. Remains to be the festival around which many festivities and localities are associated. Bealtaine less so. Samhain is mentioned quite a lot in the mythological tracts as a time of year when a lot of things take place, because it is assumed and it is widely repeated that I've completely lost my train of thought because I saw a question. I saw a question on YouTube. Jay Smith wants to know if I can recommend a book on identifying and telling apart the Celtic from the Christian elements in all our Celtic lore, ultimately passed down to us by Christians. I'll tell you one that's very, very good in that regard, but it only pertains to the Tuatha De Danann, is Mark Williams's Ireland's Immortals, History of the Gods of Irish Myth, which is brilliant at trying to disassemble the myth from the Christian imports. Well, not just the Christian imports. Also, I'm just trying to think very quickly on the kind of caught on the hop. 2 books by J.P. Mallory, who is an archaeologist attached to Queen's University in Belfast, which are fabulous. In Search of the Irish Dreamtime, Archaeology and Early Irish Literature, and The Origins of the Irish, which is a little bit, there's less mythology in that and sort of more archaeology and genetics, etc. But it still does talk about the mythology. They would be very good. What was I saying about? Samhain less so, but Lughnasa, there are more sites associated with Lughnasa gatherings in Ireland, or there were certainly in the past, than any of the other festivals, which suggests that it was a fairly major thing. Look, is anybody surprised? It's the summer still. The days are still warm. The days are still long, generally, touch wood. Sometimes it rains a lot. We can do nothing about that. And of course, the first fruits and crops of the harvest are coming to pass. So of course, people are going to celebrate, and what better way to do it than with your community out in the open air, with all sorts of social events and dancing and sporting and shows of strength from the lads and what have you, Just trying to think if I missed any there. Another one that's very good in terms of dealing with mythology and it's more archaeology, is John Waddell's book, Archaeology and Celtic Myth, which is that one there. I am in the process of completing a long read blog post. I've been working on it for a while, but I just had to give it up for a while I was preparing Island of the Setting Sun 2020 for print. I'm doing a very long read blog post. It'll be several thousand words long about the role of Christian monks in preserving mythology, but also how the monks weren't always so overtly Christian, and sometimes they were acting on behalf of kings, and sometimes they were forced to make changes to myths on behalf of their sponsors and clans who were trying to claim, their own history through the myths, etc., etc. So hopefully that'll be one that'll be interesting. That will be published first for Mythical Ireland patrons at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. Have to give that a mention. I would, as always, urge you all to become a patron of Mythical Ireland and to support the work. And of course, in return for that, you get rewards at different levels depending on your patronage. Just paste that in there as a link, and hopefully that will be of some use to you. And that will be published, freely for the public after a while, but the patrons get it first. Megan says, first harvest equals good weather, first fruits, wild fruits, fat animals. What better time to have a party? Exactly, Megan, that's it. Alwyn Roy Badziak says, Dancing at Lughnasadh by Brian Friel, set in Donegal, great play and a movie. And I was saying on Monday, I mentioned it, and I had communication today from somebody who was watching Monday's episode. And I totally had to hold my hands up and admit that I've actually never seen it, which is a dreadful sin on my part and something that I have to do something about. Desiree says, do you happen to know anything about the goddess Danu that the Tuatha De Danann are named for? I've never heard a story, myth, or been able to find much on her. Just curious. There isn't much to be said for her, actually, as it happens. Very, very little. It is always assumed that Tuatha De Danann are the people of the goddess Danu, but she very, very rarely gets named, and there are no particular myths about her, Kelly says, monks and marginaria. Yes, they liked their glosses and marginal notes, didn't they? I think she must be very old, says Megan, yes. I'm very interested too in, Talchu, who, gives rise to the whole harvest festival because Lugh institutes the games, at that time of year. She doesn't really factor very much in the myths either, There are very, very important feminine deities about whom a lot is said, and then there are some who barely get a mention in the myths at all. Ethna is another one, actually. Apart from this association with Balor and Lugh, she doesn't really get named very much. And as I said, in the tales about Brunabonia in Altran Chia Gavetter, she is a principal character. And then you find in the Dinshenicus that Ethna is basically another name for Boan. And Boan is a very important deity because not only does she form the Boyne River, but the whole monument complex there is dedicated in her honor, or at least it would appear to be named after the river, which is named after her. Are Irish gods and goddesses related to the Celtic gods and goddesses in Britain, says Debbie? Some of them are, as we saw, that Chlú Chlá Gifts, or whatever his name is the Welsh equivalent of Lugh Láfada. But you have to remember that, the survival of Celtic mythology is largely confined to Ireland. There's a lot of folklore in Scotland, particularly about Finn and the Fianna. The Romans, unfortunately, did a lot of damage. We're very lucky, I think, in Ireland. I've said this before, that we have managed to preserve a huge amount of our ancient mythology. No doubt a lot of it was lost too along the way, but we were able to preserve a huge amount of it, which has been a window into the whole Celtic mythology world. You pick up any book about Celtic mythology, MacKillop's dictionary, for instance, or Squire's book, any of the books about Celtic mythology, and you'll find that 80 to 90% of it is Irish mythology. Somebody's birthday. Is it Elaine? Second part of my 3/4 of a century birthday. Oh, I shouldn't have read that out. Happy birthday, Elaine, from us to you. I hope you're having a lovely day, and best wishes from all of the Mythflix clan to you. And perhaps people will sing along in their own way. Excuse me while I clear my throat. Here follows a few moments of embarrassment as Anthony sings "Happy Birthday to You, Happy Birthday to You, Happy birthday, dear Elaine, Happy birthday to you, from all of us to you. Hope you have a great day. An auspicious time of the year to be born in conjunction with the beginning of this great feast, this great celebration, this great festival of the harvest. Very interesting, because as I said in the previous episode on Monday, the cross-quarter day, depending on where you are in the world, is either tomorrow, or if you're in Ireland, it's actually in the early hours of Friday morning. It's the 6th of August for most people, and the early hours of the 7th for us here in Ireland. So if you wanted to be specific and sort of traditional, as it were, something to do with the Julian calendar and the modern convenience of months that begin on the 1st and all this, is that Lughnasadh tends to get celebrated as the 1st of August. But in fact, I think, as I said at the outset, that the tradition around celebration of the harvest is tied indelibly with the cross-quarter date. It also may have an association with the full moon. It has been suggested that there would have been a particular celebration at the time of the full moon. I believe that Monday's episode occurred in conjunction with a full moon, which is interesting. Somebody else's birthday. In ham radio terms, Elaine, we say another turn on the coil. In car mechanic circles, they say another 1,000 miles clocked up on the engine. But look, none of us is getting any younger. That's for sure. Enjoy every day of it while you have it. Somebody else said it's their birthday tomorrow, and I missed whose name it was. I'm sorry about that now. I can't find it now. Darina McAney says, my birthday tomorrow. Well, that's also very auspicious because, again, you are basically a cross-quarter baby. Very interesting. And I wonder whether anybody who's born at this time of the year was ever aware of that when they were growing up, that their birthday. I'm in March, so not exactly on the day of spring equinox. A few days after it, but I always refer to myself as a spring equinox baby. And whenever anyone tells me their birthday, I have this strange habit in my head of trying to calculate which of the 8 festivals they were closest to. Of course, the 8 being the solstices, the equinoxes, and the cross-quarter dates. So if somebody says their birthday is on the 3rd of March, for instance, I'm thinking kind of halfway between Imbolc and spring equinox. I'm thinking about the weight of association through the imagery of the mythology and the traditions around that, about how, how has that been brought to bear in your life? Is there anything, for instance, from somebody born at this time of the year, is there anything that has happened to you in your life that, talks to you or makes sense or rings bells about having a celebration, a harvest, something to do with harvest? And Anybody born, of course, at the time of winter solstice, I always think, there's a very special baby, a baby of great hope, born in the shortest days, a symbol of the bright days to come. Angel Barboni Smith says August the 15th here. Well, that's interesting because that in the Christian calendar, or the Catholic calendar, is the Feast of the Assumption. That is actually the date upon which myself and my wife got married, August the 15th. And I think that is sort of, Lughnasadh basically is the period between Frockin Sunday and Reek Sunday, all that sort of, those traditions that have Christian overtones, but which possibly go back into pre-Christian times, or probably go back into pre-Christian times, and the middle of August. This would be the sort of primary celebration period, I think. Olwen says, are you a Piscean, Anthony? No, I'm actually Aries. There you go. Paula Snow Queen says, I was conceived on Valentine's Day. Work that one out. Love was in the air. Mine, August the 8th, says Tom. Another year turns over. Oh, too many. Well, not sure that we'll have another episode between now and Monday. Whoa, today's the 5th. What's the 8th? Saturday, is it? Yeah, and we'll be on the 10th. So I won't get to say it to you during the live myths, but from me, and I'm sure from everyone else here, to you, Tom, a very, very happy birthday, and I wish you a wonderful celebration. New Year's Eve for me, says Nick Eska Casterton. Well, my grandmother, my mother's mother, was called Eva, and guess when her birthday was? Yeah, New Year's Eve. Brilliant stuff. She doesn't mind me mentioning it, my wife's mother was born on Leap Day. She was born on February the 29th. So most years she celebrates on the 1st of March. Yeah, Tom, you have a great day now on Saturday. I hope you have a fantastic birthday. I wish you all the best. So anyway, I think we can wrap it up at this stage. I could waffle on for another while, and I could even do more singing. But I noticed that the numbers dropped considerably the last time I did. Edina says Aries also, April the 3rd. Brilliant. Donna Jean Porter says, my daughter was born New Year's Eve. Yeah, what a very interesting time. You ever come across twins who were born either side, who are basically a year apart, but yet only a few minutes apart? Fascinating stuff. Anyway, we have in our household, we have one Samhain baby, and we have Bealtaine twins, and the rest of us are betwixt and between festivals, as it were. Robin Bartolomo says bookcases look fantastic. Thank you, Robin. Glad you like them. I've been really enjoying trying to find my way around them now that I've rearranged the books. So anyway, don't be afraid, as always. If there are any questions or follow-up questions pertaining to tonight's episode, do feel free to drop me an email, mythicalireland@gmail.com. It's got very dull out here. I'm going to go and have a glass of wine, and I'm going to put on some relaxing music, and I'm going to sit in my library, hopefully, all going well, and just try and relax a little bit. Today was a very busy work day. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us for this special episode of Live Irish Myths. We've gone once a week, but definitely I can see the requirement for more than one episode a week when special things happen. And of course, Lughnasa was just too big to try and fit into one episode. Next week, or in the coming couple of episodes, I'm going to have to deal with a topic that it grieves me to have to broach, and which is going to be a difficult one, but look, I have to do it. And that pertains to the damage that has been done to monuments in Ireland in recent times. I want to kind of talk more broadly about that because I think it's an important subject. And I don't want to think that the blog post that I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago is the only thing. I want to kind of bring more attention to it. Hopefully that won't be a completely negative affair. I'll get to say something else. Yeah, a couple of people on YouTube saying YouTube was acting up. It doesn't seem to have been acting up for everybody. It appears that it could be a problem on this end, and I'm not sure whether it is or not. In the meantime, good night to you all. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to stay safe. Remember, there is still a pandemic. It is highly advisable to keep washing your hands. Use hand sanitizer when you're outside. Please maintain social distancing. Do all the things that are going to help protect you from getting sick and protect others from getting sick, so that we can keep coming back here to do our live Irish Myths. Don't forget to wear a mask in public, one that covers your nose and your mouth. From next week in Ireland, they're going to be obligatory in all shops and in all indoor facilities, which I think is a very good thing. In the meantime, Ichawa Cholasov, Slán Gofol. We'll see you all for the next one, which I hope and think will be next Monday. In the meantime, happy Lughnasadh, and I hope that you enjoy the fruits and the crops of the bountiful harvest. Bless you all. Night night.